Welcome to Cybersecurity Awareness TV, episode number 394, recorded April 30th, 2022. My name is Mac Jackson Jr. I am a cybersecurity consultant and researcher. Folks, if this is the first time you have seen my show here on WWDBTV, our show provides you with cybersecurity news you can use, including interviews from industry experts and tips on how to protect yourself from the fastest growing crimes of the 21st century, folks. I'd like to thank everybody who's been a part of our show and has followed us over the years. And I want to thank you again for our producers and our sponsors as well. If you'd like to find out more about my show and what we do here on Cybersecurity Awareness TV, you can go to my website at macjacksonjr.com. That's macjacksonjr.com. Also, you can go to my business page at Vanderson Cyber Group. That's right, Vanderson Cyber Group, folks, to help you develop policies and training for your employees and protect themselves from cyber crimes. And of course, folks, we are on all social media. You will find us there at all the social media platforms. Remember, folks, to share, like, and hit that subscribe button, folks, to get our message out there to the world. Becoming also a member of our Patreon at patreon.com/MacJacksonJr. In today's episode, folks, we have our first episode in cyber news. We're talking about the continuous cyber threats that are going on in the United States from nation states, folks, and it is intensifying. I have some stories here to share for you that will definitely make you sit up and think about what's going on in the world of the cyber war. In our second segment, we're talking about our concerns with the Russian cyber attacks that are going on in the Ukraine and Russian war. Folks, it is happening now. There is definitely more cyber attacks that are happening from the Russian government into the Ukrainian and in Western states. And how does it affect us here in the U.S.? We're going to definitely discuss that. In our third segment, we're talking about what you can do today to protect yourself from these types of cyber threats, protect your business and your family. In our first segment, cyber news, our continuous cyber threats that affects the United States, including our infrastructure. On April 16th, 2022, this month, Kansas City, Kansas, the United Government within Kansas City, Kansas, had a cyber attack. The actual city of Kansas City had a cyber attack that affected municipalities. These are things that we have talked about on this show and warned our viewers and talked about ways we need to protect ourselves from these types of cyber attacks. We have one and these types of attacks happen all the time, all across our country. However, this is one of the latest ones that has happened this month. This attack affected state municipalities and the infrastructure within their systems, such as the Department of Motor Vehicles, state health systems within the state, and people trying to pay their property taxes. The computer systems were shut down. Residents could not get access to their information, to their data, and not sure what to do. Well, the mayor and the spokespeople from the Kansas City, Kansas municipalities came out and talked about these types of cyber attacks. These types of cyber attacks, folks, threaten our entire infrastructure across our country. Now, there isn't any investigation is going on about who and what type of attack this was. However, the cybersecurity teams within the governmental agencies are working right now to find out this attack, and they have stopped it so far, but it's still too early to see what kind of damages that can happen from this type of attack that just recently happened, this month. I have a clip here to show you from our investigation by the mayor, Tyrone Guardian, that will discuss this. It came through from Action 41 News. Here's the clip.
Well, hello, everyone. Thank you for coming, and thank you for your patience. We thought it would be imperative today that we bring our community up here in Wyandotte County in Kansas City, Kansas, on kind of the status of the cyber attack that we all know occurred. The one thing, we're here because I know there's been some information, there's been some questions on transparency, and so we want to make sure that the information we get out is not just timely, but it's accurate. And so myself and our administrator are going to walk you through some of the things that we found out. But the biggest thing we want you to know, it is a fluid situation, and I'm confident that we've got some of our best people in the industry on this issue to make sure that what you've come to expect as far as your essential services here in Wyandotte County is not adversely affected. So as you're aware, on April 16, 2022, the Unified Government of Wyandotte County, Kansas City, Kansas, discovered a cybersecurity attack to its data centers, and that occurred during routine maintenance of the overall systems here in the unified government. The rapid response of the Department of Technology Services quickly contained that attack. The UG has felt the impacts of the cyber attack, but has avoided the worst case outcomes that could have been realized. But the work is still in progress to fully restore services to the levels that this community has come to expect. From the security investigation, we know that the attack itself began on Saturday, April 16th, the same day it was discovered. Federal cybersecurity authorities were notified within hours of the attack's discovery. The unified government brought in additional private sector cybersecurity resources to assist with preventing repeat attacks, identifying and removing any malicious software, and strengthening its cybersecurity apparatus. No additional attacks have been identified since April 16th, which was when the event was discovered. The unified government is cooperating fully with law enforcement, and I think that's really key for the public to understand as we go through this process, that we have engaged authorities. We will emerge stronger from this attack, while we also seek justice and help protect our communities by sharing information with the appropriate law enforcement officials. The attack did not impact online or cloud-based services such as our website, 311, park signups, and UG emails. The attacks targeted on-premise servers. As a defensive measure, many UG servers were shut down to isolate the issue during an assessment of the impact, and that's something that we just had to do to make sure we mitigated any type of spread that may have occurred. Police, fire, and dispatch service were never affected. You still have police cars out here on your streets. You still have your ambulance and fire services still responding as they're requested. And dispatchers are still in your dispatcher centers, making sure that our public safety officials get to the areas where you need them when you call. Due to how quickly we identify this threat, we have been able to sustain business as usual across most of our departments. We are still open for business right here in the unified government, although there have been some disruptions, obviously. We appreciate the public's patience as we navigate this evolving situation. And I have to stress that it is evolving. What we may have realized tomorrow may not be what we realized today. Hopefully we realize in short order us getting back to full operation. But we want you to know that this situation is still fluid. It is important to note that because it's been a fluid situation, we're continuing to assess the scope of the attack, and we're going to take continued measures to mitigate its impacts on the unified government and the service we provide to our residents. We provided the public and staff with information as soon as it is validated, and I have to make sure that that's clear. We don't want bad information going out, so we have to make sure that the information that we get, we can really vet it, then get it out to you as it's validated. Recognizing that the situation continues to evolve, we have to balance the importance of transparency with also respecting the integrity of the ongoing investigation. I want to thank all our staff here at the Unified Government who have done such an outstanding job with their fast response and their professional service, and how they came across addressing this situation and the attacks. And I think I just can't say enough about the time that's put in by our IT team and our law enforcement professionals, and just their quick response on trying to make sure that this unified government remained open for business, and the essential services that this community has come to expect was not adversely affected.
Today, the unified government of Wyandotte County and the city of Kansas City, Kansas, gave us an update on that recent cybersecurity attack.
KSHB 41 News reporter Dan Cohen breaks down the new details we've learned about this virtual hack.
Well, the calendar's about to turn from April until May, but the unified government of Wyandotte County is still assessing the scope of a data breach and cybersecurity hack that affected county and city services during the Easter holiday weekend. Wyco residents have been unable to pay their property taxes online since the hack, with one other key area affected.
Departments that work closely with the state, such as motor vehicles, have had delays due to the lack of connectivity in an effort to preserve the integrity of the state's data.
Public safety avoided any effects.
Police, fire, and dispatch service were never affected You still have police cars out here on your streets. You still have your ambulance and fire services still responding as they're requested.
But local government security affects every municipality. We spoke to local cybersecurity expert William Brunkart, who told us, quote, with these state and local governments, they have more critical operations than running the government. They have schools, power cooperatives, airports, sports and entertainment venues, license plate bureaus, etc., etc. It's a daunting task, but we must give them the answers that they never thought to ask.
We have to balance the importance of transparency with also respecting the integrity of the ongoing investigation.
But today's availability only included prepared statements.
We want to make sure that the information we get out to our public is accurate and timely. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Mayor.
Now, as you just saw, city and county leaders did not take questions from us after this press conference. They say they are still assessing the entire scope of the cybersecurity hack and still gathering information. We will obviously bring you any updates on this developing story and how it impacts you on air and online. Reporting in KCK, Dan Cohen, KSHB 41 News.
Folks, cyber attacks can affect the U.S. and the public's safety by not being vigilant and not being aware of this type of threats. And that's why we are talking about them on our show. Governmental agencies as well as organizations are working together to be transparent and sharing information on types of cyber attacks. And that is our best defense that we have now, is to be offensive, to attack back, as well as protecting our infrastructure from these attacks. And we're doing this by sharing information when there is a cyber attack that affects businesses. We share that with governmental agencies and law enforcement, and the same and vice versa. Law enforcement shares information with organizations as well, so we can protect ourselves from these types of intrusions that affect our everyday lives. Our investigation continues with other data breaches from the state ones like we have now, and also have the data breaches that are affecting the healthcare industry. So in one aspect, we're talking about the cyber breach that happened to a governmental municipality, to one in the same month, folks, of April, that has affected the healthcare industry. There's a company called Tenet Healthcare that confirms that they've had a cyber attack and they were a victim of a cyber attack. And you will see in this upcoming clip that the organization discusses the cyber attack that affected the healthcare industry, how certain functions and systems were shut down and patient care could have possibly lost from it. Here's a clip I have to show you from WPTV News in Florida, confirming that Tenet Health Systems had a cyber attack this month.
Well, the parent company of the two hospitals whose computer and phone systems failed last week now admits it was a cyber attack.
But Tenet Health did not name hospitals hacked or say if the personal information of any patients or workers was breached.
Contact 5 investigator Dave Bowman joins us live with the very latest on the investigation tonight.
Jay, Kelly, we're learning more about what happened 6 days ago inside of St. Mary's Hospital when the cyber attack took its computer systems down. Wednesday, August 20th, 6:04 a.m. at St. Mary's Medical Center, nurses received this text. Multiple markets are reporting the loss of network and telecom services. 9:07 that morning, please do not use any systems even if it appears to be working. Later that morning, all users must log off and turn off all computers. At 5 that afternoon, St. Mary's Medical Center is in full downtime mode. The next morning, Thursday at 6:30, the text, all computers should remain turned off. They should not be turned on for any reason. Cybersecurity expert Alan Crowett says the damage had been done.
Even if you stop all email coming in, it's already inside the network and spreading.
At that point, EMTs from West Palm Beach and Riviera Beach were diverting stroke patients and pregnant women to other medical centers. Under federal law, hospitals have 30 days to report a cyber attack. Medical ethics expert Ken Goodman of the University of Miami's Miller School of Medicine tells Contact 5 hospitals should tell the public as soon as possible.
Institutions that want to get ahead of it, that want to make sure that they're continuing to signal that they are trustworthy, are going to get ahead of all of these things.
Contact 5 has learned the attack took down phone and computer systems in at least one other state. In its news release, Tenet does not reveal which hospitals in its nationwide system were hacked or if any of its other 3 hospitals in Palm Beach County were affected. Tenet also did not say if private, personal information of current and former patients and workers were breached. WPTV also reached out to numerous federal and state agencies, but did not get a response. Right now, we still don't know the nature of the hack. Was it ransomware, for instance? And who or what is behind it?
Everyone is at risk, and it's important to be able to say, we owned it, we're working on it, here's what we've done, we've obeyed the law, and here's what steps we're going to take to make sure it doesn't happen again.
We wanted to know why Tenet Health did not say if the personal information of patients or workers was compromised. Our calls and emails were not returned. The last communication we received from the local hospitals Friday, when a Tenet spokeswoman called a patient's concerns preposterous. Contact 5 investigator Dave Bowman, WPTV News Channel 5.
Folks, we have to be very, very conservative about this, but we also have to be proactive in our looking out for each other regarding cyber attacks and cyber threats that affects all of us. In our next segment, we'll investigate more of these types of threats. Folks, it is very clear that these cyber threats are there, and we must be proactive and work together to mitigate these damages. Our best defense, as we always said on the show, folks, is through education of employees and ourselves on things that we can do. Folks, hashtag Stay Cyber Woke. We'll be back after these messages. Hello, folks. This is Mac Jackson Jr. from Vanderson Cyber Group. The problem with businesses today is that they are affected by cyber attacks from around the world. But companies are not sure of what to do. Normally, they are reactive instead of proactive. But folks, cyber attacks can affect your bottom line, and it will affect you financially, legally, and your business reputation. Here at Vanderson Cyber Group, we can help you develop a policy by training your employees on what to do if they are involved in a cyber attack and how to mitigate it and fight against it. Folks, we call it here hashtag Stay Cyber Woke. And that's Vanderson Cyber Group here in Las Vegas and around the world. You can reach me, folks, at VandersonCyberGroup.com or my website, MacJacksonJr.com as well. Here locally, 702-868-0808. Give us a call today, folks. We must fight back. Hi folks, welcome back to Cybersecurity Awareness TV. I'm your host, Mac Jackson Jr. In this segment, we're talking about the concerns of the U.S. regarding the Russian cyber attacks and how they can affect us over here in the U.S. The U.S. organizations and government officials are working together to be transparent and providing information regarding these cyber threats, as discussed in a previous chapter, and how it affects us from nation states as well. These types of cyber defenses that are created from the collaborations of government agencies and the commercial industry have heightened our concerns about the threats of our critical infrastructure. Here's a clip I have from you from CNN that discusses this particular types of cyber threats coming from Russia. Take a look at this clip.
Joining us now is Amit Durrani, CEO of cybersecurity firm Tenable, and it is really good to have you weigh in on this today. You know, in your estimation, is a Russian-backed cyber attack likely underway at this moment? And if it is, have we yet to realize its impact, or are private companies and governments mounting what is a really good defense right now and not disclosing what's going on?
Well, Paul, those are a series of great questions. There certainly is cyber activity going on. We've seen Russian attacks against internet services in Ukraine. We've seen them against satellite infrastructure, against wind and turbines and power generation across Europe. And I think governments are doing a good job helping organizations protect themselves. We've got a great effort going on from the Department of Homeland Security in conjunction with GCHQ in the UK, providing very specific advisories about what vulnerabilities the Russians and other bad actors are going after.
I have to ask you, though, you know, some would consider your opinions, in fact, provocative about what the government can and can't do to defend private entities, even critical infrastructure. things like banks and utilities that we were mentioning. I mean, you're quoted as saying we are at a major inflection point in history, and how we respond will make all the difference. What do you mean by that? Do you want governments to take a lighter touch?
Well, I don't think government should take a lighter touch, but I think governments have a very specific role in free society. They have to drive transparency. They have to drive accountability. They have to drive information about threats, things that the private sector is not really good at without the government's help. But if the government can do that, and the private sector can be informed about the threat environment, if they are forced to be transparent about breaches and what's working and what's not, then we can achieve a much stronger degree of security than we've seen historically. And that's really what's required.
Okay, and given that, I want to get your opinion. A few weeks ago, as the New York Times, I believe, first reported, the U.S. secretly removed malware from computer networks around the world. I mean, think about that. They did that through the Justice Department. The disclosure was highly significant. In your opinion, was that an extraordinary move, and was it necessary?
Well, there has to be a very clearly defined role for the various governmental functions that are understood by the private sector. In the case of the intelligence community, collecting signals about what the bad guys are doing, from a cyber command perspective, imposing our cyber will in areas and cases where that makes sense. For law enforcement, it's really about the prosecution and prevention of crime. So we'll have to get a lot more specific about whether they were reaching into corporate networks or they were just disabling the command and control servers of these Russian or other botnets, which are inflicting damage on U.S. and other companies. So we have to be very careful about the role of government and make sure that we're encouraging and forcing the private sector to protect themselves. Close your windows, lock your doors, make sure you're operating from a strong foundation, from a responsible foundation in cybersecurity.
It sounds easy when you say it, and we all know it's just so complicated. I should say these kinds of cyber defense systems, they're booming right now, including your company. Earnings, profits, stellar. And yet, I think what's going on with you guys is keeping me up at night. I know everyone is constrained right now by labor shortages. I mean, how concerned are you that not just your company, but the larger industry will be able to keep up with the cyber threat, that we will remain safe and won't have a catastrophic problem?
This is absolutely no time to panic. What we know definitively is that companies and individuals that care about their cybersecurity, that have a culture of enforcing good cyber hygiene and good cyber practices, are absolutely better off. That's not to say you can't get breached, but it's to say that it's much more difficult to breach and much, much less likely. We've got to get rid of this learned sense of helplessness and understand that if we look for and patch and maintain our systems in a good state of repair, if we don't behave negligently, we can protect ourselves quite brilliantly in cyber.
No time to panic. I mean, I'm taking that one right into 2022, okay? So I'm pretty happy you just said that. All right, Amit Yoran, CEO of Tenable. Thanks so much. Really appreciate it.
As I stated earlier, folks, cybersecurity experts like myself and others have stated that we need more collaboration with state and local law enforcement and well as government officials, as well as organizations around the world, to come together and be transparent and discuss our ways of protecting our business infrastructure from these types of cyber threats. Folks, it's all through being proactive and education. In our next segment, we will discuss what you could do today to protect yourselves from these types of cyber threats. And like I've always said, folks, and we'll say it again in the show, our best defense against these types of cyber attacks is through education, folks. Stay cyber woke. We'll be right back after these messages. Hi, folks. This is Mac Jackson Jr. from Cybersecurity Awareness TV here on the WWDBTV on the Roku network, streaming live. You can find us there, folks, as well. I want to tell you about how you could support us, how you can support our show. It takes a lot of research of what we do to find clips and interviews with legal experts and law enforcement experts on cybersecurity awareness techniques and prevention to protect you and your business from cyber attacks. And one of the best ways, folks, is to join us on our Patreon channel at patreon.com/Mac Jackson Jr. That's patreon.com/Mac Jackson Jr. Folks, hashtag stay cyber woke. Hi folks, welcome back to Cybersecurity Awareness TV. I'm your host, Mac Jackson Jr. Here in this clip, we talk about cybersecurity tips that you protect yourself, things you can use right now to protect yourself and your privacy. Now, if you notice in our stories, in our episodes today, we talked about lots of different types of cyber threats that are affecting us from nation states, that affected governmental agencies, as well as our healthcare industry. Now, these are companies and facilities that are, you would think they have the best cybersecurity people working for them, and are still getting hacked. Think about the small businesses like your own. How do you protect your small business and yourself from these types of hacks, from hackers coming after you? We don't have, me being small business, $1 million worth of IT people working for us to protect our data from these cyber attacks. We must work on this information ourselves. But we could do this by staying proactive and staying aware and involved in what type of cyber attacks that are out there that can affect us. According to the FBI, cyber criminals use things like ransomware to attack another small group of businesses, and that's the farmers. Yes, right, that's right, folks. The farmers here in our country that's in charge of our food in our country, of feeding us. They are being under attack by cyber hackers, and the FBI has warned that these cyber attackers have used tools like ransomware, in which they will lock up the data in the computer systems for these different farmers and ask them to pay a fee in order to have their data back. Now, a lot of these farmers who aren't proactive or aware of these types of threats end up either paying the ransom, or they contact law enforcement and letting them know they've been hacked. And therefore, the hackers hear about it and they end up saying, okay, great, we're going to sell your data to another bad guy because you told the police about it. It's really amazing how these guys work like this when it comes to criminals. But farmers now are becoming more proactive, and law enforcement agencies, as well as organizations that are not involved in farming, are teaming up and helping educate farmers and other companies and other groups on how to protect themselves and how to mitigate some of these damages from ransomware and other types of attacks. And that's what I'm recommending for you too, folks, is to stay proactive. There's things that you could do. For example, when you're using a hotspot at a coffee shop or hotel room, we've heard it 100 times in our show, and we have to emphasize it again, folks. Be very, very careful when you're using a hotspot in a coffee shop or a hotel room. As a matter of fact, the best thing you could do, folks, is take your phone and use it as a tether. Use a hotspot on your phone rather than using a hotspot from the coffee shops or hotel rooms. Because, folks, if you're using an open, available hotspot, it can possibly be hacked from hackers. Now, you could have protection on your machine. We talked about that on the show as well. Having a VPN on your computer system gives you a layer of protection. We talked about antivirus software you should have as well. These things are good, but again, the best way to protect yourself is to have a connection to the internet that is private. And so far, the best way right now is have your own personal small hotspot, or use your phone as a way to give you that protection. The second thing, folks, that is becoming very, very popular right now, and a lot of companies are utilizing this technique, and a lot of us in the cybersecurity world are suggesting it to our customers and our clients, is to have multi-factor authentication. In other words, two-factor authentication when you go to websites and using apps. When you're on a website and you log in with your user ID and your password, most systems now, especially the ones that are on top of two-factor authentication, will ask for a code that they will send to another device. It could be either your email, your phone, or another device that you may have on you with a specific code number. You enter that code number into the website in order to give authentication that it's you before you can have access to the website. And this is very important, folks, because the websites that we have our information on include our personal identifiable information, such as when you go into your financial institutions and your universities and you have personal information about yourself, your medical records, all the stuff should be private and kept secure. Two-factor authentications give you that extra layer of privacy and protect yourselves from these types of criminals that would love to get your information if it's not protected correctly. And make sure you have a password management system also on your smart devices to give you that extra layer of protection. A password management system will remember all your passwords for you and help you even to generate new passwords that could be as long as possible. You need up to 12 characters in some cases if need be. But they're all encrypted and they're protected. It's called a password management system. And there are lots of different ones out there. You go to my website, macjacksonjr.com or Venison Cyber Group, and from our website, we can walk you through password management software programs that you could have, that you could use on your smart devices. My other piece of advice to you folks is your smartphone. Think about how many applications you have on your smartphone. If you have an application on your phone that you no longer need to use, that's older than 6 months and you haven't used it, it is suggested by all of us in the cybersecurity world that you delete these applications off of your smart devices that you haven't used in 6 months. Because what happens, folks, is you have applications on your phone or your smart device that's sitting there being updated, and if the company's no longer in business or app is no longer needed or you don't have the proper updates, you could be vulnerable. Another example is that what if the application that you're utilizing hasn't been updated from the actual supplier, and then you haven't given your phone permission to do the update. Now you have an old version of the app on your smartphone. If the company who developed the app notices a problem or a bug, it could be a security bug, a security breach, you do not have that newest version on your phone. Now you have an old version, and it could possibly make your phone vulnerable to a cyber attack. So again, folks, I tell you, always go through and do an inventory of all of your data assets on your smart devices and on your electronic equipment. Any apps that you feel that you haven't utilized in a while, delete them. Because if you need them again, you can always download them again, folks, and have the latest version of the apps. Less information out there is better for you. And I say that to folks who also have IoT equipment in their home, right? Internet of Things, having all these different devices in their house. Make sure you have the latest version of the software for all of your Internet of Things devices within your home. Just like on your smartphone, have an IoT device, Internet of Things, within your house, like a security camera or a baby monitor or a certain system. If they're not updated correctly, it can bring down or could compromise your entire security system within your house. Make sure you have the proper updates set up for your system in your home. Now, those are a few things we talked about. Things we talked about last week, we talked about before, but I want to emphasize that it's very, very important, folks, that everybody stay vigilant and be on top of this and what's going on. That's our show for us this week, folks. I want to thank you very much. You can contact me again by going to my website at macjacksonjr.com. That's macjacksonjr.com. You'll find me there. I can speak to your organization about cybersecurity and train your employees on what they can do to protect themselves. And you go to my company, Venison Cyber Group, if you need your organization to develop policies and procedures that you have in your business to protect you, to mitigate some of these damages of these types of cyber crimes. You can find me on all social media, folks. Remember to like, subscribe, and hit that subscribe button, folks, and to promote us and promote what we're doing in our works here. I want to thank our producers here at WWDBTV, and you can find us on the Roku network, folks. We're streaming there 24/7. Definitely tell a friend, folks. For now, I will see you next week. Stay cyber woke.
you.